So there was a transgender teacher in the UK who, I don't know the backstory, actually. I only know the Little John angle.
Yeah, so Little John is a bigoted piece of shit.
Like, he's like a columnist?
He's a columnist for
Yeah.
over in London, over in the UK. And again, this is a perfect example of, until this teacher committed suicide, when people would complain about Little John's racist, bigoted, terrible acts. By the way, everyone YouTube Stuart Lee talking about this guy, by the way, because it's amazing. They would be like, oh, it's political correctness gone mad. Right. Like, Little John can't even say that transgender people should be beaten in the streets and aren't human. So, political correctness gone mad.
The title of his column was, he's not only in the wrong body, ... he's in the wrong job.
Wow.
And literally this whole column is just about how, you know, a transgender person shouldn't be a teacher.
I would rather have an army of transgendered teachers educate my children than have my child have to have one conversation with Little John.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. So there was this whole campaign pretty much like led by, you know, Little John's supporters and Little John to harass, humiliate, and get this teacher fired. And she was.
And she killed herself.
And I think, you know, I'm glad you brought up political correctness because, you know, obviously bigots always attack political correctness because they accuse politically correct people of being buzzkills and, you know, fun suckers and all of that stuff. But actually what political correctness is a way to protect vulnerable people and sort of level the playing field, or like, you know, maybe a awkward attempt to level the playing field. But it's sort of like the least you can do as a privileged person is not use certain words that are offensive, right? And try to be understanding of people. If you don't know a lot about trans issues, like, educate yourself. Don't be defensive and start, you know, lashing out because you are weirded out because you're ignorant, you know?
And this applies to people who think that they are progressive, especially because I don't remember the exact thing that happened to me. And I've talked about this on the show before, and I hated saying it then, and I hate saying it now, but I think it's really important. I was doing stand-up, and the first political joke I ever wrote was in support of gay marriage. And ever since then, I've never done a set that didn't involve some form of new gay rights jokes. Like, LGBT rights is sort of one of the main issues that I've been defending since I was a shitty up-and-coming comic, right? So for like 12 years, pretty much. And I think I said something, I don't think it was on the podcast. Maybe it was even on the podcast. I always forget we've been doing this fucking show for like 5 years. But at some point, I made some, not a mean joke about transgender people. So it wasn't something like, oh, those people need to make up their mind or like anything like horrible. But it wasn't even this bad. But let's just say, you know, something common that's said is like, someone will say he, she, or something like that, right?
Okay.
And I remember I said something along those lines, and somebody called me out on it. And my first reaction was like, fuck this person. My first reaction was literally like, oh, so now I can't even say this? Because I thought I was already such a good progressive.
Right.
Where it's like, come on, you fucking whiner. I already talk about gay rights on stage. So obviously you know I'm pro gay rights. Even though obviously defending gay marriage is very different than transgender rights. Gay people are different than transgender people. And what I said was fucking offensive toward transgender people. Now, I didn't know this. I didn't know why.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about transgender rights. But that's why it was important for this person to educate me. So, you know, why did I get so defensive if I am, you know, a tolerant person who was defending I guess I should say LGB rights at the time. And why maybe have you guys gotten offensive? Well, it's because a lot of times when you get called on something that you secretly feel guilty about, you project really quickly because you go, well, I thought I was being a good person. This person's telling me I'm a bad person. So then you freak out and you go, oh, what, am I a fucking homophobe suddenly? What, are they trying to take away all the fun? What, I'm not allowed to say any words? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And you just end up sounding stupid instead of being like, okay, like, educate me about this.
Right. And I guess like advice to, trans people or trans allies is obviously it's not your job to educate every ignorant bigot in the world. Like you shouldn't take all of that pressure upon yourself. You're going to meet a lot of ignorant people, especially when it comes to trans issues and trans rights, just because we are just, at the beginning of talking about it in popular culture. So it's going to take a while to get everybody educated. As we've said before on the show, Jamie and I are still learning about trans issues. So, I would say my advice would be to kind of like adopt a little bit of a Zen attitude about it, especially when you're talking to progressive allies who are ignorant about it, and to not immediately get like furious at them, even though like I totally understand that inclination, like especially people who you think are your friends and your allies who say offensive stuff, maybe accidentally. You want to be like, come on, you're supposed to be on my side. What the fuck,
Right.
But if you can be the one to like calmly educate them, you will have done them such a great service, and they could like potentially be even a stronger ally because you went out of your way to educate them without being like, what, are you stupid? Just having a little bit of patience, I think is good.
So a couple things. There are a bunch of petitions asking Little John to be fired. So I would recommend those if you're in the UK.
Yeah, I don't understand how this guy has a job. Like I know there are so many.
Because he writes for the Daily Mail, and this is their beat, right? It's like the fucking New York Post. It's like why Ralph Reed is on Meet the Press, because all these fucking idiots pander to a bigoted base that buys their papers. You know what I mean? It's like, how is Fox News still on the air with all the blatant lies they've told, right? Like, why is, and, the Daily Mail is a right-wing trash paper, and it's so easy for liberals. Like, I see one of the big left-wing punchlines in the UK is like, that's like the Daily Mail, and we all laugh, and it's kind of like the New York Post here.
Yeah.
But what's the fucking news?
Oh my God.
What's the newspaper you see people reading the most on the subway? The New York Post or the Daily Mail.
I have a New York Post story that I just remembered when you said that.
What's that?
So I was at a protest,
Right.
A strike debt protest just last week, and this guy comes up to me, and he's got a press pass on, but I can't see where he's from.
Okay.
And he's got a camera, and he's like, hey, where are they going? Do you know where they're going next? Where are they going? And I was like, I don't know. We're hitting a bunch of different sites. They usually don't like announce where we're going until like we're actually in front of the building. And he goes, oh, where are you from? And I tell him the Nation. He goes, don't know what that is. And I go, where are you from? And he goes, the Post. And I was talking to another reporter where I was like, first of all, I'm sure they're not going to tell the New York Post where they're going next.
I love, never heard of it.
Where you from? Where you from? The Nation, never heard of it.
Press here, New York Post. Okay, so why you marching? Well, we're marching for strike debt. Don't know it. Where'd you come in from? New Jersey. Don't think that's a real state. New York Post here. Can I get a picture of your breasts from page 6? I know what that is. One more thing, and I really want to, this is really sad, but The Independent reported that actually Lucy Meadows, before she committed suicide, actually sought protection from the media who were hounding her before her death.
Oh, God.
So she even makes a joke in here. Like, I'm sure she was this really funny, cool teacher, but so this is a quote from her. I became pretty good at avoiding the press before Christmas. I live about a 3-minute walk from school, as they were parked outside my house as well as the school. I'm just glad they didn't realize I also have a back door. I was usually in school before the press arrived and stayed until late so I could avoid going home. I know the press offered parents money if they could get a picture of me. Many parents have been quite annoyed with the press too, especially those that were trying to give positive comments but were turned away. So that's really interesting.
Journalism.
Right. That's really interesting, number one. But also the fact that it's like, So you claim you care about education, yet all you're doing is preventing education by making this a fucking media circus. And also the fact that it's like, just because it's the press doesn't mean it's not the exact same as fucking high school bullying. You know, I mean, what Lucy was describing there, which adult press were doing, is the same thing bullies do by saying, I'm going to wait after school for you and I'm going to kick your ass. You know what I mean? Like, you're straight up just being harassed.
Well, it's obviously not journalism. It's a witch hunt. Like, they got it in their head that, you know, this person shouldn't be teaching children. So we're only going to collect negative quotes. We're going to offer cash prizes for photographs. Like, are you kidding me?
Creepy.
Sick. Totally sick.